Welcome to the podcast again. I'm Henry Fernandez, and it is always a pleasure having you to listen or watch these discussions we are having. Today, we're going to talk about know when to hold and know when to let go. This is an area where a lot of people are struggling in. They don't have the ability to discern when should I hold on to things or people, or when should I just let go of those things? Because you see, life has a way of teaching you valuable lessons that says, okay, enough is enough, or it's worth fighting for. And if you're not smart, if you're not led by the Spirit of God, you're going to make a huge mistake in your life. So let's get right into this, because I think for some of you, you're going to relate to what I'm saying. Some of you are holding on. Your hopes are, I'm believing, that perhaps, that dream is going to come to pass. Right? You have a dream. You've been working at it. You've invested even money and time. I think time is more valuable than dollars and cents. You've invested all. You have given everything. You have even used as collateral your children, your spouse, so many different things. In fact, you've even put some of them on delay just to pursue your dream. And you've been doing that for a while, and you just can't see where you're making progress. So therefore, you're at this stage in your life where you're asking questions. God, am I in the right field? Am I doing things correctly? Did I miss you? Am I pursuing something that wasn't really meant for me? Let me say that again. Am I pursuing something that wasn't really meant for me? So many people are pursuing things that it was never on God's radar for them to pursue. So you have to know at a certain point in your life, when you feel that way, when you feel like, okay, what's going on? Everything I've tried, but I'm not making progress. You now need the wisdom of God. You really need to pray. You need to say, God, okay, I need you to speak to me. In fact, I will not make a decision until you prove yourself to me. See, God is not someone who tries to play tricks on you. Don't ever believe that God is, he does something to trick you. No, he doesn't. He has a set of instructions. If you follow those instructions, you will prosper. You will succeed in life. I'm reminded of a man in the Bible called Gideon. When God called him to go fight the Midianites, these are people who, literally raped God's children of their harvest. They would go out, cultivate their land, and the Midianites would wait until it's harvest time and come out there and just take those people's harvest and so forth. So God was sick of it. God says, Gideon, I'm calling you. Now, by the way, Gideon, a man, an inexperienced person, so he thought, and so forth, and had very little knowledge of how to fight such a huge army. But you see, when God was with Gideon, all Gideon needed was to submit to God. Long story short, Gideon tested God 3 times. He said, you know what? I know I heard God. God spoke to me. I know I heard him, but I wanted to make sure, because if I'm going to fight this mighty army, I don't have the tools, Gideon speaking, I don't have the tools to fight this army. So if God be for me, who can be against me? So therefore, God, you got to prove yourself to me. And every test Gideon put God through, God showed up. So what am I saying to you? Maybe you need to, at this stage in your life, put God to the test. You got to put God to the test. God, if you told me to do this, or if this is in your will for me to pursue, then God, prove yourself to me. I don't know who this podcast is for. You're at that crossroad. Some of you think it's not a crossroad. You're at a dead end. When your car drive down to a dead end, that usually there's a sign. You didn't see a sign in your life and you ended up at a dead end and you don't know which way to turn to. I am encouraging you, put God to the test. You got to go to God, and the first thing you got to do is pray. God, okay, I've tried everything. I've done all that I can. You speaking. I've done all that I can. I need revelation now. I need you to prove yourself to me, because I will not go a step further. I will not invest another penny. I will not do anything until I hear you. I want to hear you. I want you to confirm your word. I felt it in my spirit. I was supposed to start that business. I felt it in my spirit. I was supposed to help that person. I felt it in my spirit that that was the man for me. I felt it that was the woman for me. I felt it that it was my season, was my opportunity to apply for that job. I felt that God, you wanted me to go to school because you said, "No, I get understanding." And I wanted to increase my knowledge to pursue that particular career. But God, I need clarity. So I'm praying for clarity today. That's what Gideon was doing. He was praying to God for clarity. He wanted God to speak to him clearly, without any obstructions, without any doubt in his mind, that God wanted him to go fight the Midianites. And that's what you need to do right now. You need to pray for clarity. Because why would you invest another day of your life into something that was never meant for you? Think about that. In my own personal life, there were moments where I went and pursued certain things. I thought that that was a good deal. And, everything added up. It fell into place. I felt that that was the best thing I needed to do. And I went into some things, some investments or some deals, and I went in and I realized that was not God's will for me. But I got clarity. At first, I thought, well, maybe it's a good thing to do. For example, I remember when we were back in the 90s, our ministry, the church that I pastor, the Faith Center, I remember, we were just growing like crazy. I mean, we couldn't keep the people in the building. It was not enough space. And if you would come to the 8 o'clock service, it'll be packed out. So by 11 o'clock, those 11 o'clock people will be outside. There was no canopy, nowhere where they can be. If it rained, if it was hot, they'll have to wait there because they had to get there early. So usually the 8 o'clock would be finished by, say, 10, and we'll have an hour, for the transition of the parking lot, to get the 11 o'clock worshipers in. We were growing so crazy that the 11 o'clock people were coming like at 9 o'clock, at least an hour before, to hold their standing spot, if you will. So it was a great success, but it created a huge problem. So I've said we got to do something about this. Long story short, I started looking at different things, and then there was a golf course right next to the church property, and it was run down. The city didn't know what to do with it. No, nothing was happening. And I wanted to go into negotiation with the city to start, saying, okay, let's just buy this golf course, and use it, for parking, and also expand the church building so we can have a larger auditorium. I did everything, and everything I did, I felt it was coming to play, and all of a sudden we hit some roadblocks. And I spent monies trying to clear the roadblocks. Listen to me carefully. I don't know who this is for. I invested more time. I invested more hope. I invested more dollars into doing it. And I felt, because the need was there. Some of you, it's not that you're making bad decisions. You are reacting to a need. Like me, I was reacting to a need. We needed a larger facility. And for you, you did what you did because you felt it was in the best interest of yourself. It was in the best interest of your family. It was in the best interest of your financial security, whatever it was. And like me, I just kept waiting and nothing was happening. I mean, literally, it seemed as if it was a curse Have you ever been in a season in your life where it's like everything is coming against you and you just felt like somebody's working witchcraft against you? You're under a curse or a spell. And sometimes none of that is so. It's just that maybe you just don't know when to fold, when to close the door, when just to say, walk away. That's a struggle. Some people, even in relationship, you keep hoping, you keep believing, you praying, you're fasting, you're even quoting scriptures. God hates divorce and all those kinds of things. And I get that. I'm not here promoting divorce. I'm not here promoting separation. But I'm just saying that at some point in time, you need the wisdom of God. When should I go? When should I go? For me, God spoke to me clearly one day because I was there trying to figure things out. And God just told me one day when I was preaching at the church in Lauderhill, I'm serious, this happened. He just said to me after the sermon, he said, get in your car and drive west. I don't know who this word is for. Get in your car and drive west. Some of you, God is talking to you. He's saying something to you, but you are so focused on what you had planned, and you have tunnel vision, and you leave no room for the Holy Spirit to alter your plans. None whatsoever. It's like Abram. When Abraham was told to go and offer his son as a sacrifice unto God, he knew exactly what that was all about. He took the son, he took the wood, and he was ready to do it. Here's the question. When Abraham heard from God, yes, he did. He heard from God, and he laid that child on the altar and had that knife ready to stab and to destroy the life and take the life of his own child. When God stopped him and said, don't touch the kid. Think about it for a moment. If Abraham was not sensitive to the move of God, if Abraham was not sensitive to the transitioning of God, how God will transition you from one season to the end. You thought you heard all of what God said. You thought you knew all of God's wisdom and from A to Z. Sometimes God gives us in bits and pieces, and you have got to go with the flow. Had Abraham continued and said, no, God told me to sacrifice my son, he's going to die today because I know God's got a better plan. No, he was willing to hear God. So when God said, don't touch that boy, he stopped. Some of you, yes, you probably heard from God. And I don't know what God has planned in his sovereign will for your life, but you need to know when to fold. When just to say, okay, that's it. For me, when God said drive west, I drove west and I ended up, oh, thank you, Lord. I ended up in this place, man. I ended up to the Sunrise Musical Theater. You couldn't see it from the main street. It was so many trees. They were tall. There were hardly any development west of Pine Island. I mean, it was nothing. In fact, from Pine Island about Pine Island, I think it was. Nothing west of that. It was just no man's land. And God told me, come out here. I came out here, and when I drove down the driveway, God then said to me, this is your property. I am like, God, what are you talking about? We're building. We collected money to knock down one section of the building to expand the sanctuary. We collected money saying we're going to buy land and we're going to get additional parking and we're going to do all of this. What are you talking about, God? I can't abandon that plan because I was worried about what church people were going to think. They're going to say, well, he's flip-flopping and what he's going to do with the money. I mean, all kinds of stuff was in my head. And when God said this place was yours, I had to quickly learn that stop trying to live your life impressing people or worry about people laughing at you saying you failed, you this, you that. You just got to know when to fold. I knew that I had to to literally shut down everything that I had planned to do at Lauderhill and followed God's plan. And oh, how much I thank God I did listen. Some of you, I'm telling you, maybe that's not your story. Maybe you have literally aborted and forfeited what God had for you. Why? You didn't know when to fold, when to shut things down, when just to walk away. When just to walk away, I walked away from something I thought was God's will for my life. And I quickly followed God's plan. And it was one of the best decisions I have ever made as a pastor of this church. One of the best decisions. Best decision. It has been a tremendous blessing to this church. I'm telling you, man, because I followed God. So right now in your situation, I know God sent this podcast. There was a reason why you listened to the podcast, why you're watching. You know someone that you've been talking to, someone who desperately need this conversation. I would suggest you pass this on to them. I would suggest you make your comments because I don't know. Am I talking to you? Am I really connecting with you? Sometimes you got to let go. You just got to say, okay, I tried the house and everything I thought, right now for my peace. It's a decision that I made, whether I walked out of the will of God or maybe it was God and God says, okay, this season has ended. Maybe I'm taking you somewhere. Walk away. Walk away. I remember there was a lady who she bought this house, and it was in the time when, back in the early 2000s, when banks were just giving the loans to just about anybody. You could be born just last night. We just got a social security number. They were giving loans like crazy. But anyway, what she did, she took out a loan, what do you call it, interest only loan, I think something like that. Then everything would balloon over a period of a number of years. That exactly what was happening to her. And she didn't know what to do. And she panicked when the market crashed and didn't know what to do. And I asked her a few questions. I said, look, okay, so how's your salary? Wasn't making that much. I said, okay, any other assets? No. I mean, she was just in a very bad situation. And at the end of the conversation, after she explained everything to me, and I said, okay, here's what's a reality. You make X amount of dollars. That's what you have to live by. You should try your best to live off all of your expenses, especially for a starter. Live with 80% of your income and make sure 20% is savings. Now, 80% is taking care of everything else. For those of you Christians, taking care of God. If you're not a Christian, that's fine. Don't be offended by that. The 80 take care of all of your bills, but if you can save 20%, can you do that? She said, absolutely not. I said, well, then you need to walk away. With her eyes popped wide open, walk away? I fought for this house. I did this, my sweat. I gave all my savings and I did all of that. I'm not going to walk away. I said, walk away. Because if you don't walk away now, then when the bank forecloses on you, then it's going to be your loss. You can walk away, cut some of your losses, but you're going to win in the end because you can always rebuild your life, right? And long story short, I believe she allowed the bank to foreclose on the house. Lost. I mean, it's just a crazy deal with her because sometimes we don't know when to walk away. We don't know. We don't know. Some of you are in relationships, like I said, you're struggling. What do I do? You're dating somebody. It's crazy. It's toxic. It's whatever. There's no vision. There's no vision. There's no plan. Okay. Now, if God told you, right? Because there are some cases God will tell you, and sometimes your timing doesn't operate with God. I get that. But for those of you who are in situations where okay, you've tried your best, you've loved hard, but it's not going anywhere. Here's what you do. You have to fold it. You have to know when to walk away from it. Some of you are in relationships, in marriage, right? If you're in a situation where there's a repeated offender, right? There's no change and so forth. Then you have to ask God for clarity. You have to ask God for clarity. Do not believe for one moment that God will just let you sit in something indefinitely. God always has a plan, always has a plan. So you have to figure out. You're on the job and you're thinking, okay, fine, you've tried everything. You got to know when maybe this job is no longer for me. You have to know. Maybe you're pursuing a career and you've done the exams over and over and you've tried this and you tried. Maybe just know when that's not yours. Maybe it's just not yours. You just need to know when to fold it, when to just walk away, cut your losses. There are friendships that you've gotten. There's some people you're talking to. You've explained yourself over and over. They just don't get it. There's some people you're trying, you're working with them. There's some children. Some of you've got children and grandchildren that you are doing your best, but they keep breaking the bank with you. In other words, they keep doing dumb, stupid stuff. You always got to go get your money to bail them out of jail, put your house up as collateral. You're doing all these things. They always go out and do their wrong and then leave you, stuck you with the bill or stick you with the bill. No, honey, you've got to say to yourself, no, there has to be a limit. And I know it's tough love and it's probably sound cold, but you've got to know when to walk away, when to just say, I think it was Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to run. I think the lyrics of it, let me pull it up here because I am kind of slow with these with these things, but I really want to put it in your spirit to let you see. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna get it. Yeah, so I'm putting it up here. Okay. 1 second here. Maybe I should get it on the lyrics. So let me keep my conversation going. Know when to. Okay, there you go. All right. So, because I really would. It says you never. Well. No, I want the lyrics to be written now. So, and I guess the lyrics of the song was talking about, the first, it says you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough to count them when the deals or the dealing's done, right? There's time. In other words, you got to know in which sequence you are to operate in. Right? Because some of you've got to get to that place, man. You've got to get to that place where you have clarity to say, I'm going to walk away. Whatever you need to walk away from, I don't want to limit it to one thing. Whatever you need to walk away, is it your season for you to say, that was a part of my history. I'm closing it down, shutting it down. Then the next part of our conversation is know when to keep. Oh, this is a good one. You got to know when to keep because just like how you got to know when to walk away, there are times you will go through some struggles in life. You will go through some situations that you feel like giving up, but there are situations where you have to say, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to keep this because God's have a season. He has a plan for my life and so forth. Likewise, the same 16th Street Church. We were in the city of Plantation and we had a bad situation there. We had to leave. And then when God spoke to me again, I'm telling you, he spoke to me and he had me driving around looking at properties and then told me to pull into that plaza. I'll never forget. I pulled into that plaza. When it was just an abandoned facility, it was horrible. And then God said to me, that's your place. Move the church there. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. When we met with the landlord, she walked me into the building, Cynthia Baker, she was the manager of the Lauderhill Mall. She walked me into the theater where we have our sanctuary, where we finally built it as a sanctuary. There was literally half the roof was gone. I could see the sky. It was filthy. It was horrible. And I was like, no, I can't do this. It was the woman. She looked at me and she said, no, you can do this, Rev. That's what she said. Rev, you can do this. In fact, the word she said was reverend. Reverend, you can do this. A woman who, I don't know if she confessed the Lord as her Savior, if she's a Christian or not. She just said, yes, you can do this. I didn't want to do it. And then when we got into the lease, there was so many problems. 8 months into the lease, I'm thinking, okay, maybe we're just here for a while and so forth. 8 months into the lease, God says, purchase it now. God spoke, again, clarity. You have to, because sometimes you can let go of something that is so good and is beneficial to your life in the future. But because you let it go, you suffer the consequences of it. There's so many of you are watching and listening right now. You had an opportunity. I want to take you back. I know it's painful. You don't want to hear it, but I want to take you back to the place where you goof up, where you drop the ball, where you missed God, because there were situations where God was telling you, no, hold on. Where God was telling you, hold on to that man. Hold on to that woman. They're a work in progress, but you let them go because you were in your feelings, your pride, your ego, right? And you thought that there were better fish to fry. You thought that I can do bad all by myself. I can do better than this. And you didn't know what you had before you. And you were willing because you had people in your ears and you had these spirits just talking to you, telling you to do crazy things. And now looking back, you haven't verbally said it, but in your heart, you're saying, wow, man, I should have kept her. Man, I should have kept him. Right? You got to know, because sometimes God will let you be in a situation where, you know what? Hang in there. I have a plan for you, right? Keep fighting. There was a man who, a couple actually, when they came to me for counseling, I never forget the first session I had with them. I knew that was going to work. It was toxic. It's one of the worst counseling I've ever been, to the point where they were now making me exhausted. I had to shut it down. And I'll never forget walking. Usually I'm a fighter. I don't give up easily. And, I remember at the end of that counseling, I said, in my mind, I never told him verbally, because I don't do that. I said, no, he need to walk away from that. That is going to destroy him. He needs to run for his life based on what I saw. And long story short, they ended up getting a divorce. And I saw him a while later, and then he said these words to me. He said, Bishop, I'm remarried, I have a lovely wife, and I want to tell you, sir, my first wife prepared me for my second wife. My first wife, with all of what we went through, she's taught me how to love a woman. She, with her crazy self, taught him. He was able to say, no, I won't do that. No, A woman is better than that. She prepared him for this other woman. And guess what? The ex-wife at one point was trying to see if he would have a change of heart. Oh, he shut that thing down. He shut that thing down. Had she just said, let me just, whatever, get help, whatever her situation was, for him, let him get help too. Both say, let's get help. Man, they probably would be in a better situation than they are in now, which he's in a better situation because it looks like, haven't seen him or spoken to him in a while, but seems as if at that time he was happy, he was content, but she was now realizing, I should have kept him. Think about that. There are people who have left jobs. Oh, I can't tell you the amount of times people have been on jobs and took advantage of the company and didn't realize that they are blessed when it's like people are not smart enough to weigh options and see you're in a good position. And for those of you in good jobs, I understand you may complain, you may have little cliques and conversations at the workplace, and you all are mad and angry at management because you don't understand management and so forth. It's always easy to criticize the top when you're not there. Sometimes because the leadership doesn't make explanation or have to give an explanation to you, we always assume that leadership crazy, they this, they that, they're taking advantage of me. And people always want leadership to always scratch their backs and say, well done. But how many times you have the employees go to the owner or manager or supervisor and even say, great job. Thank you for being who you are. All the privilege that you get on the job and so forth. You got to know when to walk away from a job, but you better make sure that you also know when to keep it. I was in a situation where I was frustrated at North Broad Medical Center. I didn't like the job. I hated it, didn't want to be a part of it. I hated hospitals, period. But I was working there. I had to pay bills. I'm not a lazy man, right? I will go and bag groceries to take care of my family. That's me. I was brought up that way. I cannot sit home and let a woman take care of me. That's just my personal view. And I remember I just wanted to leave that job. I was frustrated. All kinds of stuff was going on there, drama, and I wanted to leave that job so bad that I applied at Eastern Airlines and passed all the examination processes that they've put in place and was offered a job as a flight attendant. I was offered a job. And I was so excited, way more money. And here's the big thing, the perks. Ooh, I get to travel for free. So I really want you to understand that there are times you got to know when to hold on to something. Because I was there, excited. I've got Eastern Airlines job. I'm ready now to write my resume. And here's the thing now, I went to God. Because I always want God to agree or to tell me, no, that's not his will for my life. And of course, he said, no, do not quit that job. And I was giving God every reason why. It pays more benefits. I don't have to deal with this job. And the Lord clearly said, do not leave North Broad Medical Center. Well, thank God I stayed. I knew I needed to stay. God was smarter than me. So I said, okay, let me stay. Reluctantly, though, but I stayed. I was so glad. 2 weeks later, Eastern Airlines filed for bankruptcy. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. And I was able to stay on that job for a few more years until I came into full-time ministry. Doesn't get any better than that, folks. I knew when to hold on to my job. And I don't know who God is talking to. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe you just need to hang in there. Things will get better, right? Maybe it's an investment, something, a business. Maybe you just need to calm down. It's just been 3 years. I know you have made a profit, but calm down. You're going to get there because if God is in it, it will prosper. So I just want to encourage you, get the wisdom of God. Don't make any more mistakes. If you're like me, you're too old. to make mistakes. You don't have enough time to recover from it. If you're a young person and so forth, please use our mistakes to help you not to make those mistakes. All right. So thank you so much for listening and watching and being a part of this. I really need your comments. Did I help you today? Come on, send that message right now. Did I help you today? Did I get you to think? Right? And make sure, man, you're in the will of God. Please share this platform with someone. Tell them about my podcast, where they can listen to it, and so forth. Forward it to them. Don't ever forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like my page on YouTube, Henry Fernandez YouTube channel. Please make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button. Thank you so much. Have a great day.